Right, so the story of the lost sons. We're all quite familiar with it, and we have a good idea of the prodigal and what the prodigal has done. And so from our perspective, that's where we kind of assess a lot of things. So what I thought, we're quite familiar with the story. I was going to actually read this through together from a paraphrase. It's called The Message, if any of you are familiar with it, written by a guy called Eugene Pedersen, just trying to provide some colloquial context to it, but it is a paraphrase. So reading from Luke chapter 15, 11 through 31. Then he said, there was once a man who had 2 sons. The younger said to his father, Father, I want right now what's coming to me. So the father divided the property between them. It wasn't long before the younger son packed his bags and left for a distant country. There, undisciplined and dissipated, he wasted everything he had. After he had gone through all his money, there was a bad famine all throughout the country, and he began to feel it. He signed on with a citizen there who assigned him to his fields to slop the pigs. He was so hungry, he would have eaten the corn cobs in the pig slop, but no one would give him any. That brought him to his senses. He said, all those farmhands working for my father sit down to 3 meals a day, and here I am, starving to death. I'm going to go back to my father. I'll say to him, Father, I've sinned against God. I've sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son. Take me on as a hired hand. So he got right up and went home to his father. When he was still a long way off, his father saw him. His heart pounding, he ran out, embraced him, and kissed him. The son started his speech. Father, I've sinned against God, and I've sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son ever again. The father wasn't listening. He was calling to the servants, quick, bring a clean set of clothes and dress him. Put the family ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Then get a prize-winning heifer and roast it. We're going to feast. We're going to have a wonderful time. My son is here, given up for dead and now alive, given up for lost and now found. And they began to have a wonderful time. All this time, his older son, the older brother, was out in the field. When the day's work was done, he came in, and as he approached the house, he heard the music and dancing. Calling over one of the houseboys, he asked, what was going on? He told them, your brother came home. Your father has ordered a feast, barbecued beef, or in South Africa it would be a braai, because he has him home safe and sound. That's where it gets interesting. You see, you could kind of leave it there, couldn't you? That you had the prodigal son, and off he went. He did bad things, he came to his senses, came back. But that's not where the story ends. The older brother stomped off in an angry sulk and refused to join in. His father came out, so out of the party, came and tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't listen. The son said, look how many years I've stayed here serving you, never giving you one moment of grief. But have you ever thrown a party for me and my friends? Then the son of yours, who has thrown away your money on whore, shows up and you go all out with a feast. Really? His father said, son, you don't understand. You're with me all the time. And everything that is mine is yours. But this is a wonderful time. And we had to celebrate. This brother of yours was dead, and he's alive. He was lost, and he's found. Father, I just pray this morning, Lord, that as we go into this story and the implications of the lost sons, that Father, by your Spirit, you just come amongst us, Lord, to encourage us, to challenge us, Lord, that we can remove what needs to be removed to come into your presence, to come into that party and to have that celebration. In Jesus' name, amen. So 3 observations about the oldest son in this passage I really want to look at. Firstly, his relationship with his father appears functional, not relational. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you look at the part when the older son comes in and he hears this great party going on, he's not going, "Hey, Dad, what's happening? What's going on? Let's see what's going on, Dad." No, he calls one of the houseboys over. So get the impression that he hasn't got this very close relationship with his father. He has to get information secondhand. The second observation, that on the face of it, he looks like the ideal son. He's out there working his behind off, right? Creating this wealth for the family, doing the things, doing what they need to do. But what about internally? What's going on inside him? I think the story presents a very interesting answer to that. Because I would suggest to you that he appears to be full of pride. Pride. Interesting word. We hear it a lot nowadays. And it's an interesting word because it can mean a lot of different things. You can be proud of your son for performing well at a school activity. I'm not talking about that type of pride. I'm talking about the pride that we see as being a destructive trait. So the definition of the pride I'm talking about today, and the pride that I believe the older brother possessed, was this. Pride is a term of psychological trait that every human being expresses. Pride is defined as a trait under which a person is considered to have a high level of self-worth for themselves. Under pride, we consider our abilities to be the best over everybody. Pride lets us make decisions that are not healthy for ourselves. Now, what I really want to clarify here is the opposite of pride is not misery, right? The opposite of pride is not misery. In fact, pride versus self-esteem, the main difference between pride and self-esteem is that pride is excessive self-worth for oneself, whereas the term self-esteem is self-worth for oneself, but in a very stable and positive manner. Pride exaggerates your abilities, whereas self-esteem makes you feel worthy of your abilities. The two terms differ from each other. Now, sometimes you'll have people out who are not Christians. They go, "Why would you want to become a Christian?" Because they say, "Well, lay down your pride, be miserable." God's never said that. Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, how can you do that if you don't have a good self-esteem? How are you going to treat your neighbor? Yep. Jesus wants us to have a positive self-esteem, friends. He wants us to be a force for good. He wants us to be able to go into the world to be the light. He doesn't want us to be the frozen chosen. Yeah? You can be humble and have a positive self-esteem, but you cannot be humble and be full of pride. Pride is all around us, friends. It doesn't take a lot to see. Just flip through a couple of reality TV channels. Look at the parking lot. outside. People with the flashy cars. People want to look how good I am. It's all about me. Me, me, me. But pride's not just out there. Pride can infect our faith. Jesus warns against that. You read in Matthew 6, he gives the example of the wonderful Christian standing up, giving us wonderful speech about how blessed he is to not be like those poor people over there. And Jesus is like, you ain't getting anything else. That's it. That's where it is. Yep. So he warns us about pride. And as I said earlier, pride, I believe, infected the older son. So what I'd like to do again is I want to read that last section. This time I'm going to read it in the NIV, which is not a paraphrase. So please feel free to follow with me here again. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. He came near the house and heard music and dancing. So he called one of his servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry. Now I want to focus on this point. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. Why? So his father went out and pleaded with him, but he answered to his father, look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders, yet you couldn't even give me a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when the son of yours who squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill the fattened calf. Wounded pride. It can be a very, very difficult thing to deal with, friends. And I'm going to suggest to you that that's what this older son was struggling with. He's the one who was in the fields. He's the one who's doing the backbreaking work. He's the one who's never taken a step wrong. He's the one who's done all of this. And now, the squandering, lazy, wasteful younger brother of mine, waste of space, he comes back in. No, that's not fair. That's not fair at all. A lot of the questions that come in with wounded pride is the I. And my father very well said once, sin is spelt small s, capital I, small n. It's our right to have certain things. It's all about us. But I believe that it's that exact issue that kept the older son out in the cold. He refused to go into the party. And let's remember, friends, the father, right, who was like the head of everything, even went out to try and bring him in. It's like, not having that, not interested. Why? Because he was too proud. No ways. And that resentment and that coldness started festering. And when that pride takes hold, you start living out your lives like this older brother with a question, why? Why was that not me? Why did I get the fattened calf? Why does my useless younger brother have to have all of this set out for him? Why? And God understands that we know we don't always go through easy times, friends. And there are questions that we often ask. And that question, why, is a big one. I showed you the picture earlier of my family, of my father and my three brothers. And in October 2006, I got a call that my second youngest brother, Tim, had just died. He got killed in a motorbike accident. He was 34 years old. He had a 7-year-old daughter, and things were just starting to turn around for him. Why? But I've been blessed. I've always been able to be the white sheep in the family, as it were. Do the right things, say the right things. I can identify, by the way, a lot with that older brother. Just getting to terms with that. 16 months later, in February 2008, I get another call, and my older brother's died. Another motorbike accident. I could only just think, parents aren't supposed to bury their kids. Dave was 40 when he passed. And I had to grapple with this why. Why? I think I've been a pretty decent Christian. I've done the right things. I've done outreaches. Why, Lord? Why? Why? My parents have given up their entire life for the ministry. We lived in proverbial poverty for the gospel. And that happens. I can identify with the older brother. It's very, very easy to use that question and let it start your heart starting to grow cold. Yeah? That's what happens to the older brother. He got stuck in the question why. I said right at the beginning there were two lost sons. I believe they were both lost. The one was lost in a pig pen in pigland, but the older son was also lost. He was just surrounded with a wall of pride that he just couldn't get out of. The good news is that Jesus does not want us to just stay in the why and live through our entire lives asking the question why. I would suggest to you, if we do that, friends, it's going to be a miserable existence. What Jesus wants us to do is to move from the question why to the question what now. Yeah? The younger son in Pigland, he didn't stay in the question why. Why have I messed up? Why have I done such a stupid thing? Why just take my life? No, he went, I've messed up. But what now? I know, I'm going to go back to the Father. Yes, it's going to be hard. But he moved into the what now. Why? Because Pigland stripped him away from his pride. He had nothing left. So he could move into the what now. So I would like to suggest to you this morning that the way you move to the what now is to lay down your pride. Now, you might be sitting there this morning and going, pride? Nah, I don't have a lot of pride. I'm not like that South African up on the stage who's really loud and probably incredibly arrogant. No, not me. Not me. Unfortunately, none of us escape pride. And I would suggest to you, in this wonderful, reserved part of the UK known as Surrey, we're all very proper, but there might well be when you're busy talking to someone, being very polite, and you're shaking their hands, but inside you're going, what a plonker. They have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Pride. Yep. Doesn't have to be the arrogant out there. Pride is very cunning. Pride can sit even in what seems to be. But if we want to move from the why to the what now, we've got to lay down our pride. But isn't God so gracious that we don't even have to make a trip to Pigland for that to happen? We don't have to embark on this massive role of penance and beat ourselves up. No. We've just got to have that change of heart to say, I accept my limitations, Jesus. And I need to lay that down so that I can go to you and go, what now? Personally, Jesus has never answered the question, what now, but my brothers? Still don't know. And I tell people I've got a few questions for him when I get to heaven one day. But you know what he has done? Every single time he's answered the what now. When you turn to the Father, he will tell you the what now. He will guide you. He will take your hand and move into that. So friends, today I want to encourage you. Move to the what now. When life is tough, and life can be tough, we know that. Jesus never promised an easy ride. He really didn't. But he has promised to give us the strength. But we can only receive that from him if we lay down our pride. That's where we want to get to, friends. We want to get to that ability to embrace the Father. The Father doesn't want us out in the cold. The Father doesn't want us hardening our heart against him. That's what the devil wants. Jesus said, I've come that you have life and life abundantly. Jesus wants a positive, healthy, vibrant person. But we've got to move into that presence. We've got to lay that down before him. So as we come in to finish, I must say I cheated a little bit, because when Adrian asked me to preach, I did say, well, could I still have the piano? So that's coming. But I just want to take some time. That I trust that this message has resonated with some of you this morning. Some of you that are in the midst of one heck of a difficult time. I don't have the monopoly on that. We've all been through some difficult times. But to know that the Father is open. His arms are open. The party's ready. The party is there. We just need to make sure that we don't go, I'm okay. Have any of you guys read the scripture, God helps those who help themselves? Well, if you have, I'm very surprised, because it's not in the Bible. Yep. But sometimes, that's what the devil tries to tell us. You're okay. What do you need God for? I'm okay. I'll do the right thing. I'll say the right things. It's pride. But once you get into that, once you get into the party, the self-esteem, the building up, the joy in which we can live our lives, why wouldn't you?
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you've tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day.